These 10 films all absolutely pulled it off, delivering deaths that are instantly iconic and unforgettable. So with that in mind, I'm Ellie for What Culture, here with 10 awesome recent horror movie death scenes. Number 9. Jimena Ruiz, When Evil Lurks. When Evil Lurks is one nasty movie, and not for the faint of stomach. Enough that it's tough to pick just one death scene from the movie's many horrific ones. But the one that sticks in the brain, if you'll pardon the pun, sees a possessed Jimena Ruiz kill her husband with an axe before turning the weapon on herself, in an attempt to stop the possession spreading. Director Damien Rugner pulls no punches as he lingers on Jimena, repeatedly slamming the axe into her own face until she collapses to the floor dead. It's horrifying and sad, leaving the audience little opportunity to relish the savagery of the violence. And if this somehow isn't bad enough, it is worth remembering that Jimena is pregnant at the time that she does this to herself. Again, not a film for the squeamish, but an uncommonly mean-spirited, nasty take on the demonic possession movie. Number 8. K, Alien Romulus. For all of its flaws, Alien Romulus did at least deliver a brutal and unsettling good time, and took no prisoners with its many victims. Case in point, it seemed likely that pregnant colonist Kay would survive the movie, but not quite. After being critically injured during an encounter with a xenomorph, she injects herself with the mysterious black goo pathogen from Prometheus in order to heal. But this also causes immediate biological changes in Kay's body, prompting her to suddenly give violent birth to an alien cocoon, which hatches a hideous human-xenomorph hybrid. It isn't long before this thing grows into a towering humanoid monstrosity, and due to Kay's wounds from birthing it, she can't do much to fend off her offspring. While we don't see the particulars of exactly what happens to Kay next, the implication is certainly stomach-churning, considering that Kay is shown to be lactating a black goo-like substance as the offspring approaches her. Ugh. Number 7. John Labatt, Maxxxine. One of Maxxine's primary antagonists is sleazeball private investigator John Labatt, played with a certain campy glee by the great Kevin Bacon. And Labatt certainly receives a fate befitting the low content of his character, after Maxxine lures him into a trap, tricking him into following her before she, her agent Teddy, and her pal Shepard ambush him. Labatt ends up trapped inside his car as it's placed under an industrial car crusher at a junkyard. And despite his pleas, he's helpless as the crusher goes into action, smushing his body into a bloody pulp along with the car he's sealed inside. It's certainly a death scene in the lurid vein of the giallo films Ty West keenly homage throughout the movie, even if it's also horrific enough to perhaps make you feel slightly sorry for Labatt, undeniably reprehensible though he was. Number 6. The Electric Lady, Strange Darling. This next death scene isn't remotely flashy or gratuitous, but it's nevertheless extremely well executed. Again, pardon the pun. Strange Darling's antagonist is a serial killer known only as the Electric Lady, who targets people that she envisions as devils rather than human beings. But at the very end of the movie, the wounded lady is picked up by a woman in a truck, and as she stares into the truck's wing mirror, she appears to see a devil staring back at her. A moment later, the lady raises her gun to the trucker, who responds by pulling her own gun and mortally shooting the lady. The final 3 minutes of the film are then an unbroken, locked-off shot of the lady succumbing to her wounds as the trucker drives her to the nearest hospital. It's an exquisitely well-acted sequence by Willa Fitzgerald, as all colour drains out of the frame and the lady finally expires before we abruptly cut to the credits. It may not be as wild as most other entries on this list, but it sure is impactful and effective. Number 5. Mia and Cole, Terrifier 3. Terrifier 3 is absolutely jam-packed with brilliantly, nastily creative death scenes, so picking just one isn't easy at all, but it's gotta be that shower scene, right? As ghoulish true crime podcaster Mia and her boyfriend Cole are getting frisky in a university shower, Art the Clown decides to give them the what for, with a chainsaw. Art smashes through the shower cubicle with the chainsaw, leaving the terrified duo to try and fight him off in the nude, which naturally doesn't go quite so well. Art gleefully hacks away at the pair, scalping Mia and destroying her jaw, before letting her come face to face with him in her dying moments, just as she expressed curiosity about earlier. Art then turns back to Cole, where he shoves a chainsaw up his butt and slices his nether regions up for good measure, before fully dismembering his body and then making snow angels in the gory remnants. It perhaps doesn't quite top the outrageous nastiness of Ali's unforgettable demise in Terrifier 2, but it's not far off. Number 4. Longlegs. Longlegs. Longlegs defied audience expectations for many reasons, not least that Nicolas Cage's titular serial killer ended up making a premature exit from the story, dying a whole 20 minutes before the end of the movie. After Longlegs is arrested, FBI agent protagonist Lee confronts him in an interrogation room, where, following an intense exchange, he repeatedly slams his face into the room's table until he dies. It's a joltingly violent, bloody, and disturbing sequence, and basically the furthest outcome from what most surely expected for the antagonist, to die by his own hand while in police custody. Most were surely anticipating a more Silence of the Lambs-inspired finale in which Lee shoots Longlegs dead while saving one of his victims. Not quite. And yet between Cage's unnerving physical performance and the overall discomforting tone of the scene, it totally works, even if it means seeing a little less of Cage's wild antics. Number 3. Elizabeth Sparkle, The Substance. Even being well aware of the substance's body horror elements, who could have seen that completely unhinged final death scene coming? Now, fading celebrity Elizabeth Sparkle technically dies twice in the movie, first being beaten to death by Sue, a younger version of herself. But as Sue's body begins to break down without Elizabeth, she makes the drastic decision to create a new version of herself, despite the supplier of the substance expressly forbidding this. The result? Sue mutates into Monstro Elizasue, a revolting hybrid of Elizabeth and Sue, which is unsurprisingly met with horror by the audience of the New Year's special she's set to host. In the ensuing mayhem, an audience member decapitates Elizasue, and as her remains later collapse to the floor, Elizabeth's original face detaches from the entrails before crawling onto her ill-kempt star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. In her final moments, Elizabeth stares up at the sky, imagining the world admiring her once again, before melting into the sidewalk and being wiped away by a street cleaner the next morning. We all knew the substance was going to go hard, but did anyone expect that? Number 2. Aurora, In a Violent Nature. Despite being marketed as an artsy, slow cinema take on the Friday the 13th slasher formula, In a Violent Nature sure doesn't shy away from wanton brutality when the time calls for it. And boy, does it call for it, alright. Midway through the film, Jason Voorhees-esque serial killer Johnny proceeds to attack Aurora as she prepares to do some yoga by the seemingly peaceful cliffside. But Johnny doesn't just swiftly finish her off with a blade to a vital organ. He disembowels her with a hook from behind, grabs her head and pulls it backwards through said hole he just made, and then kicks her mangled remains off the cliff edge. In the gore stakes, this is about as creatively gnarly as horror has gotten in 2024. And needless to say, filmmaker Chris Nash will need to go absolutely hog wild to top it in the recently announced sequel. Number 1. Sky Riley, Smile 2. Smile 2 is one of the most pleasantly surprising horror films of the year, in large part due to Naomi Scott's phenomenal, honestly Oscar-worthy performance as literally cursed pop star Sky Riley. After the original Smile's bleak ending, fans were curious to see how things would turn out for Sky. Would she find a way to beat the curse, or fall victim just like those before her? Sadly, despite her concerted efforts, Sky dies in the sequel's final scene, when the Smile demon possesses her and forces her to stab herself in the eye with her microphone in the middle of a concert. Given that this brutal moment is being watched by thousands of Sky's devoted fans, it certainly touts an intriguing setup for Smile 3, with the curse basically going viral after instantly spreading to all of the traumatized concert goers. Though not everyone loved that Smile 2 opted for a hopeless ending just like its predecessor, it was nothing if not an intense and appreciably nasty way to close things out.